Merry Christmas. I'm Jody Pritzel, author of 3 Christmas history books, 2 on ornaments and 1 on stamps. Thanks for buying my books at Amazon.com. But today I get to be Ben Mankiewicz, or Alicia Malone, from Turner Classic Movies. Does it get any better? Vintage ornaments and Christmas. Cinema is a terrific way to watch how the industry evolved. And so I'm going to talk about 20 films that depict that evolution of the American-made glass Christmas ornament industry. So am I talking about Christmas movies or Christmas scenes in movies? Well, the classic definition is that a Christmas movie is one in which the events of the plot take place during the Christmas season. I like to think a little bit broader and say, hey, movies, I love watching from Halloween to New Year's. So I'm going to get to those 20 films. The one that you can see a Shiny Brite box in, another one with a Santa Novelties box in. The film with the most vintage ornaments, and it is not what you would expect. The heyday of the 1950s, the shapes, the reflectors. So grab your popcorn and let's get on with the show. So if you've watched my other vintage Christmas ornament videos, you know that Corning did not start mass producing bulbs until 1939. So films that were made in 1940 or released in 1940, maybe filmed in 1939, would they have American-made ornaments or would they have European ornaments? I've got some proof. Remember the Night from 1940. Some of my favorite actresses are Julia Roberts, Kimberly Sue Stead from the Hallmark Channel. But my all-time favorite actress is Miss Barbara Stanwyck. You'll see her later on in Christmas in Connecticut, but before she did that film, she and Fred MacMurray, who you remember from Double Indemnity, right, Hitchcock's? Fred and Barbara teamed up in Remember the Night. He's the good guy lawyer. She's a little bit of a jailbird. Now, the Christmas tree in Remember the Night features rounds. Look at the size of these bulbs. I do not believe they're American-made, and in fact, I think they came from Europe prior to the blockade. Now, also in 1940 was a movie called Beyond Tomorrow. I will admit that is a terrible title for what is an absolutely heartwarming film. You can watch it for free on Tubi. The plot goes like this. 3 gentlemen decide that they don't want to spend Christmas Eve alone. And then a singer comes into their lives, a girl that takes care of children. They fall in love. Everything's hunky-dunky until there's a plot twist. It is truly a heartwarming, low-budget film, but I think you'll enjoy it. Now, how about the tree in Beyond Tomorrow from 1940? The size of the bulbs tells us that in 1940, when they made this film, or released this film, those were European ornaments also, because of the size. Look at the size of the reflectors. So again, what we're seeing in this early period is European bulbs. From 1942, The Man Who Came to Dinner. Monty Woolley stars as the man who came to dinner and never leaves. You'll see him again, right, in The Bishop's Wife as the professor in The Never-Ending Glass of Sherry. Bette Davis is a nice person in this movie, The Man Who Came to Dinner. Reginald Gardner shows up and he resurfaces in Christmas in Connecticut. Now, how about the tree? Well, you see it constantly in The Man Who Came to Dinner. It's always the backdrop, but it is extremely hard to see the ornaments. From the shapes, I suspect that, again, even though it's 1942, they're still using European ornaments. Also from 1942, the classic Holiday Inn. Now, I go around my house and I can recite the lines, especially the one, "You're easy to dance with." I just love that line. Oh, the song White Christmas debuts in Holiday Inn, and that's kind of a surprise to a lot of people. Holiday Inn was released in the summer of 1942 and filmed in November of 1941 to January of 1942. So again, Corning at this point can mass produce bulbs, but they can only make 80 million during the 1941 season. So the question is, do you see American-made glass ornaments from Corning in Holiday Inn? In the opening dance number, you can see what I think are some of the first American-made bulbs to show up in a Christmas movie. You can't see them all that good, but you can see them a little bit better in Ted's dressing room. That's the great Fred Astaire. But that doesn't mean some European ornaments weren't used in the film. So now you've got a combination in 1942, like this pine cone when Bing Crosby sings White Christmas. There are rounds and potentially an opaque, but Corning did not introduce the opaques till right around 1943. So if this was filmed in late 41, I doubt that that is a Corning opaque. And those, in the end of this film, are not American-made bulbs. But Holiday Inn did show us the first American-made glass bulbs. I'll Be Seeing You from 1944. War and military were big themes in Hollywood that year. I'll Be Seeing You has a phenomenal cast. You have Ginger Rogers. You have Spring Byington, Colorado girl, who also was in the television show Laramie. You have Joseph Cotton, who was in Gaslight. And you also have the great Shirley Temple. Now about the tree and the ornaments from I'll Be Seeing You. They have very thin necks, which makes me think they are European. Now there is a stripe, which could be a Corning blown stripe. There's also a frosted leaf in the upper left corner. That might have been a Santa Novelties from Harry Heim, or it might have been a Shiny Brite decorated. You can also see the ornament boxes up close, and I'll Be Seeing You in 1944. But if you look at them, they're too big to be K&W Glassworks Shiny Brites. Now in 1944, audiences were also treated to a famous film, Meet Me in St. Louis. Now, Christmas is a tiny little portion of this film, but I think it's such a classic at Christmas time because Judy Garland debuts Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And so forever linking Meet Me in St. Louis with Christmas. So it's 1944, the year before, Corning introduces opaques, which you see in Meet Me in St. Louis. There's a blue one and a pink one. You also see a yellow opaque and a transparent. Christmas in Connecticut, 1945. What I think that's interesting about this film and analyzing it from a vintage ornament perspective is the reversal. So we would expect to see, if they had used actual 44-45 caps, they would have been cardboard. The ornaments would have been having that cardboard cap. But what you see is actually a reversal back to European ornaments. Christmas in Connecticut, of course, stars my fav, Barbara Stanwyck. S.Z. Zakal is terrific in this, and he says catastrophe. I think that's how he says catastrophe. Reginald Gardner just wants to get married to Elizabeth Lane, and you have the dreamy Dennis Morgan. Now about the tree. It looks hand-cut, and I think it's a beautiful tree. The bell is flared at the bottom, and the neck, again, though, looks European. If it's American-made in that year of 1944 in the summertime, we would have expected to see those cardboard caps. Plus, look at the size of the rounds. The popularity of It's a Wonderful Life from 1946, I think, is due in part to the fact that you see it all the time, because it's in the public domain with no copyright restrictions. It might be Jimmy Stewart's finest role, and Beulah Bondi plays his mom. And you might remember her from being the mom in Remember the Night. There had been a couple of years with American-made bulbs that I referenced, but then again we have this reversal back to the European because of supply. I think somebody went and raided the prop closets, if you ask me. This is a European bell, not an American-made bell, because no American-made bells have a clapper. Actually, I just think it's a decoration and not even an ornament. It's a classic, though. It's a Wonderful Life from 1946. World War II has ended, and American industry is flourishing. And I also have to say that 1947 has three of what I consider to be the ultimate classic Christmas movies released. And you're going to see the American-made beauties come in to the mainstream. By the way, many Christmas movies were released in the summer when an audience attendance was at its highest. Think air conditioning. So first up from 1947, It Happened on Fifth Avenue. I am a huge fan of Charlie Ruggles. I love this movie. I think it's so fun. Charlie Ruggles' character owns a mansion in New York City, and these squatters move in, and there's this beautiful Christmas tree. These could be Corning ornaments, decorated by Harry Himes' Santa Novelties. Here's a transparent with a scallop cap. Harry Heim had glass blowers, but they would have struggled to hit the exact specifications time and time again to make this many ornaments. So they could have been Corning bulbs sold to Harry Himes Santa Novelties. Check out these boxes in the picture. And then look at the box I'm holding. If you look at the graphic and look at this box again, When It Happened on Fifth Avenue, I think, is using Santa Novelties. Next up from 1947, Miracle on 34th Street. This is a classic film. I know you've seen it. The great Edmund Gwynn is in it, and he plays, Santa Claus. A little piece of trivia, when Hollywood actors negotiated their contracts, believe it or not, the font size used in movie posters had to only be a certain percentage based upon how you were ranked in the cast. So John Payne and Maureen O'Hara, that star in Miracle on 34th Street, they're 90% size of the font versus Edmund Gwynn, who is 35%, and poor Natalie Wood, she only gets to be 35%. So when you look at the movie poster, look at the size of their names. I just had to throw that in. I feel like I'm standing in the employee cafeteria at Macy's and shopping at Macy's when I watch this film on Thanksgiving Day. The tree, there's only one, and you see it very, very, very briefly. But what you can see in the promotional stills is Natalie Wood with what appear to be American-made glass Christmas ornaments. Check out this Corning Shiny Bright stripe. A person should always have a favorite Thanksgiving movie and a favorite Christmas Eve movie. And mine is from 1947, The Bishop's Wife. Oh, what a classic movie, right? Cary Grant and David Niven star, and 3 weeks into filming, they had to switch roles. Cary was originally going to be the bishop, and David Niven was going to be the angel, and that wasn't working, so they switched it up. The skating scene is probably, I roll it back 2-3 times because I think it's just magical. Carolyn Grimes, who plays Debbie, was Jimmy Stewart's daughter in It's a Wonderful Life. But how about that tree, Jody? The decorating scene is so brief that you have to slow it down and really look at it to spot the American-made bell. I think The Bishop's Wife in 47 was the first time you actually see a shape in cinema. And not only is there a bell, if you look real close, you're also going to see a pine cone. Now, I'm on the fence on that one, whether that is an American-made or a West Germany or a European. And you also see some other different shapes in The Bishop's Wife in 1947. If you want to make sure that you're seeing Corning Shiny Bright American-made blown and decorated bulbs, vintage ornaments, then you have to watch Holiday Affair from 1949. You can see the scroll work, flower petals, and these are clearly Shiny Brites. So remember, I said that when you watch cinema classic Christmas movies, you get a sense of the evolution of the industry. And the peak period of American-made glass Christmas ornaments was the 1950s. So that also parallels the film industry because the 1950s were the heyday of seeing American-made bulbs in cinema. I kind of bebop along to this one. Robin Hood. I know, crazy, huh? It's free on Tubi if you want to check it out. They start with Happy Trails and they clip-clop. Now, for a Christmas movie about rival Christmas tree ranchers, there is this snippet of about 63 seconds in the film that actually show a Christmas tree. How weird is that? You're talking about rival Christmas tree owners and then you never show the tree. But when you look at the Christmas tree in Robin Hood for 3 seconds, you can see the 1946 Shiny Bright box. And then for 60 seconds, you can see bright, shiny, brand new green, orange, Shiny Bright Christmas ornaments blown by Corning Glassworks in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. I think Roy Rogers and Dale Evans got it right, and they went out and bought some brand new Shiny Brites to use in Robin Hood. And then, to sell comic books in December of 1953, Roy Rogers featured this box of Shiny Bright ornaments on the cover with himself. I guess they stored it in the prop closet. The heyday of American-made glass Christmas ornaments in film was from 1950 to 1957. That's when they showcased the great bulbs blown by Corning and decorated by, lots of folks, it turns out. The Great Rupert stars Jimmy Durante and a squirrel. It's a good thing it's free. Not one of my faves, but it's kind of cute. Guess the animation's okay. But in The Great Rupert, what you see are reflectors and also stripes. Later on in the movie, Jimmy Durante even bumps into one of the reflectors that you see here. From 1951, Joe Santa Claus. You know, there's bad titles like Beyond Tomorrow, and then sometimes there's bad plots in Christmas movie, like Joe Santa Claus, where the man deserts his wife and his daughter. Doesn't make for a feel-good plot. But one thing about Joe Santa Claus is it is a terrific way to see American-made glass Christmas ornaments here. And I can't help but throwing in an aside from 1951, Jane Russell in this promotional shot. Check out all the transparents. Now the ornaments in Something to Live For, 1952, look very similar to 1950. Because remember, we're filming look back, right? So there's a gap between when they would have filmed, a time lag maybe on the ornament production, in order to make those classic Christmas movies. Doris Day shines in Young at Heart from 1954. She plays one of the daughters that falls in love with Frank Sinatra. Now in this film, you can see classic American-made vintage ornaments. A great example is this reflector, front and center. A dozen years passed before the hit song White Christmas from Holiday Inn got its own movie. Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby were supposed to reunite for White Christmas, but Fred didn't make it into the picture. Actually, Fred and Bing both initially turned it down. Bing signed on. Danny Kaye signed on to replace Fred Astaire. White Christmas was the biggest hit of 1954, and it is the Christmas movie that I've seen that has the most trees in it. Now, the first tree in the opening scene, you can see Shiny Bright Corning stencils. In White Christmas, there are also shapes. In the 1950s, the ornament colors finally popped, right? Because the movies in 47 were black and white. I still prefer the black and white, but each his own. Now, in Bundle of Joy from 1956, there's a tabletop tree. But what I like about Bundle of Joy, besides Debbie Reynolds doing a great job rescuing a baby, is that you really do get to see the American-made colors pop. 1957, and again, not a great title, Johnny Trouble. I still can't get over Johnny Trouble and Beyond Tomorrow as Christmas movies, but they are Christmas movies, especially Johnny Trouble. It's about an invalid, and the Christmas tree, probably in Johnny Trouble from 57, you spend the most time with a decorated Christmas tree. And you're treated to vintage ornaments. Corning blown, shiny bright, decorated, including this spinning top that you see amongst the shapes. Did you run out of popcorn? Now, I watched another dozen films, including Come to the Stable, and I forced myself to watch all the versions of A Christmas Carol, looking at Christmas trees and vintage ornaments. You know, in those films, they're really, really hard to see. So I showcased the 20 where I thought that you could actually see the evolution of the industry. But you know what? I can watch them all again. I'm sure I can. A great resource to learn about Christmas movies is Jeremy Arnold's Christmas in the Movies. I want to thank you for watching my videos and buying my books. Merry Christmas.